Yeah, so I'm actually just, if you look at the daily wedge, this is really what we're trying to break out of. Oh, sorry. Yeah, see that big where the blue trend line is, that right angle triangle that we got here. So I've just been playing these major liquidity areas. So this is a monthly horizontal, and 100% there's major amounts of orders here, and I'm looking at a lot of the on-chain analytics as well, and most of the BTC that's held right now hasn't moved in the last sort of 8 to 10 months. So these are very much long-term holders. And then I looked into who the what the average BTC buy price is, and it's still under like $5 for the most of the coins have been bought. So based off that, like I actually think this level's holding very, very nicely. So I have started like heavily averaging in now on a spot level. Things are changing on I think we're going to get some short-term relief actually. Have you been looking at the Dixie?
Yeah, I've been looking at the Dixie. Yeah.
Yeah, so if you look at that daily, we put a lower high in. So
yeah, if we break down a lot there, we're going to see a lot of volume kick in.
Yeah, definitely. If we break down this lower low, so I'm seeing right now we're getting a lot more just what we call it consolidation, where probably we would refer, if you look at the BTC chart, just the candles themselves, there's a lot of price unsurety there. No one knows what the price is going to do, and I think all of that lies right now with what the Fed is doing with their monetary policy. And the last calls we discussed where they discussed they have the UN kind of step in, and the monetary fund has also stepped in as well, and basically issued a warning or a request for everyone to dial back on the tightening. So UK sort of bailed. They've already started easing back into long-term bonds, and they've shown a longer-term commitment to doing so as well.
That's what I was going to say, because the original date on the end of that was wasn't the original end date the 14th of October, was it?
Yeah, it was 14th of October is what they extended to. Have you seen any news actually? Let me get my Twitter up.
No, that's what I mean. That's what my long-term bias is on, because obviously we're seeing we had that little bit of bearish news for USD on Friday, but like fucking me longer term bias is obviously USD gaining strength, and obviously the British pound, we're waiting for that to crash, but it's just when that buying stops, you know.
But this is the thing. I actually think it might be on the cards quite soon. So there was a statement issued. Let me see if I can find it. So basically, the Federal Reserve has asked all of the major banks if they should start buying back bonds. So this is a huge sort of turn, I would say, in the way the Fed is addressing the monetary policy concerns. But it also contradicts a lot of the statements that are coming out from them. A lot of them, they're still saying that inflation is the biggest issue. So I think what this comes down to is domestic inflation and their own domestic issues more important than the impact that this has on the international markets. I think there'll be enough pressure from international markets, pound, JPY, Europe as well. But let's not forget, like the emerging markets, the frontier markets, who haven't had a say on the global stage, and they're getting hammered. So based off this, I would say there's going to be a lot of change, possibly some short-term movement back to quantitative easing, but it's a flip-flop. That's all they're doing, is they're just going to have to flip-flop until there's some sort of, either they buy their time, whether this could be a 10-year period. I saw a metric a few weeks ago basically stating that any time the S&P's fallen by this level, it's taken about 10 years to recover.
Isn't the S&P directly correlated with GU as well at the minute?
Yeah, but BTC isn't. There has been some movement away from crypto from the S&P, which is interesting because of this major liquidity area here. That's I would let's say assume that this is being held by all of the long-term holders.
Yeah. So what if we could still break? You're looking long from here, aren't you? From that area.
Yeah, so I longed already. So I longed off the 18.3 and I took profit at around just under 20K because it wasn't hitting it. There was major resistance there. So I took profit there. But I'm putting spot. Everything that I'm trading right now is going straight into spot BTC because any short-term relief in quantitative easing will see more movement here upwards. There's also been bigger calls for regulations to come in, especially from the big exchanges who are wanting to list crypto. So like Fidelity, etc. They're now putting a lot of pressure to make this happen. So as soon as this happens, that's the one thing that needs this to move is regulation. There won't be any change in a winter market unless this happens. But if they do go back to buying back bonds, then everything rallies once again. We'll start to see all of the capital move upwards and we go into a what I would say is a short-term bullish scenario.
Yeah.
GU's looking quite.
Oh,
Did you say like your mic's on mute, lad?
did he mute himself? Let me. Was there an airplane behind him?
Oh shit! Was I on mute then? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. What was that?
How did you know I was muted? Did they come up and tell you?
No, it's got a little microphone, a little red microphone next to your name when it's muted.
Oh shit! Yeah. No, that recovery from GU was quite good, but obviously, have you seen the news about the corporation taxes going up 25% in the UK?
This is the U-turn on the taxation.
Yeah, another Liz Truss U-turn, yeah. But obviously that's got bigger implications, hasn't it? Where corporations could just leave the UK.
It could be. There's a big issue with that. Like the UK has a major challenge. One, they've obviously left Europe and now they have to create a competitive environment for corporations over the EU if they're to attract anyone into the market. But there's two sides to all of these situations. And I think anything that she's trying to do right now seems very rushed. The mini budget proposal seemed rushed as well. And there's even some documents that haven't been attached with that they've been holding off on providing. So you've got Kwasi. Has Kwasi left? Has he been officially sacked?
Yeah, he was sacked, yeah.
PM, but like he still believes that that she was right. I understand what they're trying to do. They're trying to create a market that encourages FDI. Everything that they've done is to encourage investments, but more from foreign direct investments, internationals. And that's really what will save the UK. And there is masses of capital moving, especially out of like the Middle East, into buying pound at these levels. These are extremely lows. I remember when.
Yeah, well, that was a good wick on the daily there. That must have been a bit of fundamentals when we hit that September low. But
what's the? Have you been trading gold or have you?
I've only been trading GU at the minute, and then
mainly gold.
Do you want to pull up your charts, Kev?
I fucking love gold.
I'm a
gold member.
There's a lot of good levels to be paying attention right now to actually buy some physical gold. And I would be taking bigger steps to hold more physical assets in your own custody, if not like a third-party vault.
Yeah, we've been dropping like seen a big move on the end of Friday, like, but we're still on the weekly. We're still bearish, but I'd like to start seeing this area break, and then we'll see a lot of volume to the downside. But as I say, it's currently with the US and the Dixie in it. It's fundamentals that are, you know what I mean? The fundamentals in play.
Until there's any change in fundamentals, like zoom out a little bit, it looks like this is the weekly trend, isn't it?
On a weekly.
Yeah, like we're playing that pathway perfectly.
We're stuck in the we're still in this channel. We have broke out of it the previous week, But like you say, you can see that big exhaustion with it. We got pulled straight back inside it and then started plummeting. Once we see this weekly structured break, I think we're going to see a good bit of volume to the downside because we've already seen. They say that was the news half one on Friday. We've seen a lot of volume kick in. We broke this daily structure. So we had a lot of consolidation in that area. So 1660 was on the pre-weeks as a break and test short. We got it down here and then it's pulled straight back up, give us that exhaustion with. But then once it has broken, and I think now that we've got closure below here on the daily, we're going to see bearish volume. We might see a retest. If we retest and we hold that area, which is a strong area, then I can see us coming straight back down to possibly even these areas. If we break around 1622, then we're going to see a lot of volume to the downside. But yeah, I'm still.
That looks like a
still heavily bearish on gold.
Was that a head and shoulders pattern back on that time frame?
On the daily, yeah, it's looking like head and shoulders. So that was what it took me. I don't know. I had a trade off that head and shoulders pattern. Yeah, because we got that head and shoulders in the 4 hours as well.
Yeah, there's an inverse there. You got the inverse.
Yeah, it's a double. We had a
double
we had a double
perfect.
top. Yeah. That was 17. I was saying if we broke that area, we could take a long, but obviously it's held strong resistance. Yeah, and once we broke through here now and closed, I think we're going to see a lot of bearish volume.
But even there, like you can see, there's a lot of indecision from breaking that trend line.
Oh yeah. It's we broke it, and then like you say, we had that small double top up here, and then come back straight back down inside it. It was that trade that took fucking on Friday. Risky business.
It feels quite safe to trade right now. Like it feels very safe.
Look at them. Look, you can see my psychology in the chart, mate. Look at all them. I was just fucking trying to take every position under the sun.
Find me a break.
Yeah, mate. Give me a position, and then finally, mate, I got it up here and I just went for it with one lot. And
your chart looks like
a
Fruit Ninja.
Yeah, mate. Yeah, it's fucking like it looks like my screen's cracked. But once we broke here, I took a one lot short. Sweaty palms, mate, all the way to about here. I think I cashed out, and then like I say, if I'd have held it, I'd have passed the challenge. But
how many pips is that?
Hindsight's a hell of a thing. Sorry.
How many pips is that?
140. But you know, if we're talking the biggest move, we're talking 202 pips. But like I say, with all this, I'd have held it down to here. In an ideal scenario, I'd have held it down to this daily zone. We didn't see much retracement. That would have took out my trade and stop until obviously, yeah, if I'd have held it, I'd have probably took obviously there's me green line was me take profit. That's been me take profit on these shorts as well. So, you know, if it was any other day and I didn't have to break even, that would have been a really good trade. But it is what it is. We broke even, we go again. But yeah, like I say, I'm very, very bearish on gold at the minute, waiting for. So you're going to see how it is, because we've got a lot of gaps. We've got a lot of gaps up above now that will, you know, on the smaller time frames. Have we? I mean, no, it's. We could just see this area getting retested, and then we should see a bearish volume kicking in now. Like
when's our next FOMC?
Next FOMC, let me put it on.
Because that's really what's going to dictate what's going to happen now.
FOMC.
I've started buying stocks up as well this week.
Stocks? What stocks?
Just doubling down on chips, semiconductors like Nvidia. I also bought into, I mentioned an Oxy. Someone was talking about oil in the group, so I also bought some Oxy. Just everything that's taken a major hit, I've just dived right in. Haven't bought, stayed away from. I bought Apple. What else did I buy? These are major. So Tesla, I doubled down on as well. these
Big step forward.
we're at such a nice level. Like we're 55% down from the top. S&P's done this a handful of times, so even coming in at these levels is perfect time to start averaging in. So I'm doing it now on a weekly basis. I'm moving money into gold, equities, and crypto
Yeah.
on a
I need
spot
to
level.
start buying too.
Yeah, like everything that I'm trading now is going straight into spot positions.
How'd you get the next FOMC up? Fucking.
Go to your news on. Are you on Forex Factory?
I was on. Yeah, I was on Forex Factory. Then I couldn't find it.
Calendar.
You got it up.
So there's Sunday's the IMF meeting today, so there'll be a presentation out, well, minutes out. I think that here we'll probably find some more comments in regards to what, let's say, what pressure they'll put towards the US in terms of making a U-turn on their monetary policy. So even though it's a yellow, I'm paying a lot of attention there.
Oh, yeah, it's fundamentals at the minute. It's crazy.
Empire State Manufacturing Index. So this will just give an idea of all of the production that's going on. And really if the market is beginning to tighten up. So big news as well. So that's on Monday, tomorrow at 4:30 p.m. What else we got
Got
there?
the big bullish move on GJ as well. We had, didn't we?
Just
At
now?
165.
Yeah.
We had a big
Break
bullish
that
move.
area there, we're going.
I mean, we broke that area.
Bullish
So
if we pass there.
we could take. So yeah, that was on the pre-week. We could take a long off that daily structure. So they say we've come up, we broke that area, we've come back down. Looks like we've had a nice retest there, and then we've got it. Looks like a good exhaustion wick on the daily. And yeah, we've got this small 4-hour trend line running up. Just gonna see what happens in this area. See how we start to break this indecision. If we start to break it up to the upside here, we could see. We could see a move up into 168,500. Maybe in September high. We had this big wick come up and tap, create that September high. So I don't know though. We could, like you say, it's. I won't be taking trades on this at the minute. Like I'll be keeping an eye on it. Like, but
The
choppy, very choppy.
in terms of news this week, there's not really much there. Obviously, I think on GBP, you've got the CPI out on Wednesday.
Yeah, and I'm my long-term bias on. I'm just waiting to short the pound. So like even these positions when it's looking like obviously we're creating bullish structure, and I'd probably look to take a short, a lower risk long here, but my long-term bias, I'm just waiting to short GJ. I'm just waiting till the pound crashes. Like, so
I don't really know what the pound's going to do against the dollar because they're kind of moving opposite to each other. So there could be very minimal movement. It could just range for quite some time until they move towards the same sort of direction monetary policy wise.
that's what I'm waiting on. The higher probability ones.
But it does come down to the rate. So who is the US tightening at a higher rate, or is the UK easing at a higher rate?
Yeah, look at that on the week. We got that exhaustion week, and then the next week we got nearly, almost a Maribor. No, we still got wicks on it, like, but it's very fundamental driven. We're going to see a lot of consolidation, like you're saying.
Do you think with the fundamentals we've got coming, that we're likely to see the pound crash?
No, one is a currency that's too big to crash. We'll probably there's huge things at play here, but the Bank of England will always step in. That's the idea of a central bank, is that if no one buys, they buy. It's kind of like a clause they've signed up to, which is exactly what we saw when they reversed their policy decision a few weeks ago. So no possible crash. I could see below parity and almost. I've been saying for a while. I think there will be a false peg to USD or a common reserve system.
That's a bailout. That's like a bailout or permanent.
Yeah, well, if you look at we spoke on the previous call about BRICS with Brazil, Russia, China, India coming up with their own currencies. There's the China-Russia reserve currency backed against minerals. So let's say you aligned all of these, you've got this alliance on mostly the eastern part of the world, and you've got the West who they've got their alliances as well across the EU and the US. So whilst the East has made this announcement that there's going to be a currency under this BRICS, and then there's going to be this central reserve system that is backed by rare earth minerals, which China and Russia are the biggest exploiters of and export most of it to the Western markets. So I think I believe we will see something similar come out of the Western markets where USD, the EU, GBP, these sort of countries, they pull into an alliance themselves and create a singular currency under their globalization. And there needs to be some sort of, whether they stick to this monetary policy right now, which has proven it's broken, whatever the transition is, whether it be a crypto-backed algorithmic reserve or whatever. But there will be something like that. I think we'll have two currencies almost to represent the poles of the world in terms of power.
East and West.
Yeah, it's kind of the way things are moving now. So what I've seen that happen on the East, and I'm just waiting for the counter on the West.
Yeah, it's definitely coming. Like it's what all this is geared up for, isn't it? It's what's happening now in the world. Like,
and there's just the statements, like even though the IMF and the United Nations have made very, as I say, big statements in regards to changing up monetary policy because of the effects it's having on the rest of the world, the US is still sticking to their guns, and they will keep doing it until something breaks. And do they go to the point where in the UK where a pension fund almost broke and the Bank of England had to step in, or will they just let them all die? And if you look at the way CBDCs have been thought about, that they'll only be issued by the central bank, there is no need for the commercial banks. So it's a very easy way to wipe them all out.
yeah, definitely.
I don't think there's a possible way that they could all get bailouts. It's too big. Way too big. And 10 years of no economic growth is what I'm now estimating. I thought this would be 5 years, but I think this could be 10 years.
Yeah, it's going to be a long one.
Yeah. So even like, okay, we're averaging in now, but it's just stay consistent in averaging in. It's about building in, like you're trading a short-term strategy now, but what's your long-term strategy in terms of building that wealth in the background? So whatever revenue that you're generating yourself needs to be divvied up in the right allocations in order to support that sort of growth plan. So whatever you do, make sure like you're not just living fast, because most traders do. They just live very fast and they trade, and you'll get months where they'll have a bad month, and that's it. They're down very hard. So always think about sort of a long-term plan. Buy a lot of gold right now. Levels are nice. Around 1.6, I would say, is a good level. To 1.7. This is kind of where we're ranging right now until the USD breaks that previous high. I don't see these. I see a lot of consolidation at these levels.
Well, doesn't gold normally rally during war?
Yeah, let's go into it. There's some nice charts for this, actually. I always say it though, every single financial crisis that's ever happened has had a war that's followed. So if it's a coincidence, I don't know. I think here's one. Am I sharing? So more or less, but I wouldn't say that it's linked to war. I would say it was more linked to oil. If we were to look at
which is
modern
linked to
wars.
war. If it's talking Americans.
Is this advert blocking your view?
Yeah.
I can't get rid of it.
Fucking useful webpage, that isn't it?
How are they doing people like that? But yeah, that's it's all linked to oil price. And the two rare earth minerals are found very, very close together. Where you find oil, you find gold. So there could be
Like, 'cause that's always what it's in my head. Like, obviously, I'm short on gold, but to what area is what I start thinking in the back of my head? Because obviously, like I was saying, it's heavily undervalued at the minute, innit? So we could start seeing, I don't know, we could start seeing a bit of a double bottom maybe.
where's your chart? You what
Yeah,
where
sorry,
you
yeah, no, I'm just looking at yeah, that's
where are you forming
yeah.
double bottom? What kind of level? At around 1.6?
Sorry, yeah, I'm just looking at yeah, around 1.615, about 1.622. Maybe obviously we got to work down to the September low, which was 1.615. So I'm just thinking, like I was saying the other day, we could have, it could be undervalued and any same with it rallying with war and that. But I don't know. I'm thinking if we have 1650, we could see a double bottom around there. But if we break that, then we could see a lot of momentum down to maybe in the 1500s. But I don't know. I don't like to speculate that because gold's undervalued at the minute.
It's undervalued, but I think there's still a lot more to go. Like inflation still is what it is. The dollar is still gaining strength despite the rate that they're increasing those rates. So
Yeah,
I still believe that we
area
could
there.
see I believe we could see a triple digit gold.
A triple digit.
Yeah. If not close to 1K. Like we're nowhere near,
Yeah,
we're still hovering at .com levels, and we're at
we are still in the 12-month in that yearly trend, that yearly rise and wedge. But like you say, we've still got a lot to go to touch the bottom of this. Like, and it looks like we're starting to make our way down to touch
like
that.
we haven't. This isn't a recovery on a. You look at the yearly time frame. That's not a recovery by any means.
No, we got all the way down here to come. Like say, we got this area consolidation.
Are there
And
any
just
price
have a
gaps
quick
there?
look. Sorry.
No
Yeah,
price gaps.
we've got a price gap. That's what I was about to say. Then we
Yeah.
just off looking at that area consolidation. We've got a price gap on this area of support.
Yeah, so at
which
1.1.
Price
And
could come back down, yeah, to trigger that area, yeah, somewhere around, yeah.
And given the state of the macro climate, comparing where we are today with 2008, with .com, it's when there's a lot going on. And it's none of it's going to be resolved too soon. If anything, they're escalating it further. That's a double top there.
Yeah, that's clear double top on that trend line, and then let's say that all that consolidation there, the monthly consolidation, we broke that monthly structure, and it's still moving downwards. Like, what are we? What we've got 15 days left in the month. Get rid of some of this shit.
And you can see that sell pressure there on the monthly.
Yeah, look at that for an exhaustion mix. Massive exhaustion mix so far. If we start to, we broke all them recent structures. Gonna come all the way down to 1608 at least, I think. Yeah, just tough.
But on a long-term
makes
horizon,
sense.
it's average. The reason why I'm saying average in is that obviously as the dollars, it's gaining strength, it's also weakening the higher it goes. So start moving any sort of money into these assets as they're flowing down. These are very heavily discounted rates as they are, but there's significant retracement still to go. Like if you put a fib on a higher time frame now,
on one of these time frames.
yeah.
Yes, we still. You say it looks like it's due a retracement though.
Yeah,
That's
look,
that's
there's
all that gets
23.
me
Yeah,
thinking. Like, yeah, it's onto the weekly. It's just seeing if this price holds now. I think we open. I think we're going to see a lot of consolidation in this area. Me.
yeah, definitely. Until there's some sort of change, and right now, I think there's no decision from a fundamental perspective. So there'll be no decision in the market. It'll be a trader's market, and that's shown by the movement within the trend line.
So we got some gaps on the 4 hour. I think because market open. I think we're going to like the others. We're going to see a retest of that 1660. Maybe a little bit of consolidation. But I'm going to be looking. I'm going to be looking to short, like, definitely. I'll think you afterwards. I'll do some more detailed analysis and I'll put some pictures up and stuff.
All right, cool.
Been out this morning with the kids, like, so I haven't had a chance to this morning.
But yeah, there's definitely going to be a U-turn coming around from the US side. That news article on Reuters about the Treasury asking the major banks to buy, if they should buy them back. They're trying to get a consensus, and if the banks are struggling with liquidity, then this would be the way to address it.
Yeah, definitely. So I need to get more up to date on my fundamentals, like, at the minute. Because I'm more technical, small amounts of fundamentals, but right now it's heavily the other way, you know?
And I think also be paying attention from a fundamental perspective. Pay attention to the Chinese markets at the moment. They're also taking a hammering. That whole zero COVID policies, they haven't had they've kind of come out of it, but it's still existing. And then there was a statement out from Xi Jinping today, kind of enforcing that they're still going on with the zero COVID policy. So partial lockdowns, changes and challenges with supply chain, logistics. There's some big movements on that side. And I think this week you've got the Chinese CPY or GDP. I severely doubt if the US isn't going to say they're in a recession I really doubt the Chinese are going to do it. But just pay attention to those markets as well, because it's just going to overall have an impact on global supply chains. Just from like my side of from my business, I was talking with some of our manufacturers, like the OEMs, and they've been saying that they're expecting more power shortages in China, which are going to hold things back even further.
So is the yen strong? The one strong now, is it?
Where's the level at the moment? So I don't trade
I
Forex.
don't know whether I need to include it in me. Can you include that as one of your tabs in Forex Factory? I don't have nothing on China. I obviously don't trade it, but
yeah, you can do it on Forex Factory. Currencies aren't my thing.
Do you not trade Forex at all? I don't know.
No, nothing. I enjoy. I prefer trading my own money firstly, but also the whole crypto side of things just makes things easier for me because of the way that I operate. So any profits I can take them straight into BTC. I can take them straight into a hard wallet. So the system's already set up for me. It's already automated. So what I do is I bank myself. So I use, I think I've mentioned this before. So I use BTC like my own reserve currency.
I'll get yourself a.
You're not expecting a 10K.
A 10K. I'm expecting a 14K. I said that last time. I think we'll have some short-term relief, which will take BTC up to around 21K. If we get enough volume there, I think we'll go up to around 28K, where we've got some price gaps. I really don't think, but like I could be wrong, if there's a change in regulation, that we may fill the price gap that's around 37K. But if we go up, we're going down, this will be nothing more than a bear market rally. But if
What are your
these moves were
thoughts
to
on
happen,
if regulation comes? Sorry, go ahead.
no, sorry, if regulation comes,
Where do you think Bitcoin will stand? Because it quite easily, I don't know, this is my opinion, it could be, what if they just kicked it out and said, well, Bitcoin doesn't fit in anywhere. There's no owner, they're not paying taxes, they're not basically applying to any regulation like the ISO 2020 thing we looked at, 2022.
yeah.
I don't know. I've always just thought this, like, I can't get my head around how, if you look at Bitcoin from the conception being on the dark web, it was this like underground digital currency to now potentially being able to store it in the biggest bank in this short space of time. If it's not operated by the government, it's not going to be able to sit in regulations. It just doesn't. I can see it crashing as soon as those regs come out.
I don't think so. I think it goes back to where you believe the origin of BTC is, I guess, as well. But if regulation comes in, we'll see the biggest movement of institutional capital, because institutions want to enter, because there's, like all great Ponzi schemes in our financial system, this one doesn't have a way out. So the price will only go up. So if they all entered or bought low, which they are, but they're doing it OTC, so it's not being reflected, then 100%, like, this will fly. And like, I had a lot more, I would say my only reservation up until recently about the value of BTC was the locked coins, Satoshi's coins, and the lost wallet. If Satoshi's account or the hard wallet was to be accessed, that would trigger something on chain that would, I would say, alarm a lot of people, because that's a hell of a lot of capital that's locked up there. So but then my cousin basically said to me, he says, you need to look from it the perspective that this is more of a maturity thing. So as BTC matures, the value that's held in that wallet just becomes another wallet compared to everyone else's. So if that person was to open and sell, it wouldn't have an impact on the market. So I think that's possibly the long-term plan. And I just value his opinion. He's been in crypto since the beginning, since before BTC. So
I just find it hard to believe that this currency could just take over. Well, not currency, it's more of a commodity, isn't it? It is pretty much your digital gold. People are hedging the money there. But the only reason we're not seeing more movement to the downside is, like what you said before, those long-term holders. You've got big believers in Bitcoin that have got a lot of capital. But then if regulation was to come in where then they were being pressured by the local government or whatever to be forced to sell it, then it only takes one big guy to jump out, and then it starts that domino effect. Like, look, when Elon sold his shares, he caused the Bitcoin crash. He was responsible for some of it. Like, just one whale can trigger that knock-on effect then, but we only need some fundamentals with regulations. That's I haven't bought any crypto recently. I've doubled down on some of me like obviously XRP and HBAR and all that stuff, but I feel a bit safer with them because they're obviously public. When you've got such a big, it's huge, isn't it? But how can there just be no one responsible for Bitcoin? Because if that wallet does happen and all these people do lose the money, you big institutions and everything, who's liable for that then?
No one.
The wind, isn't it?
But you should be liable for your own decisions, firstly. But I think there's a few points here. One, those people that are holding BTC, they're all long-term holders, but most of those people have bought BTC under $5. So when do they start to feel pain is really when they would sell, and they're not going to feel any pain. So therefore, the price, I believe, won't go any further. And if it does, it will go to around 14K, because those are the people. So those people are the ones that bought in probably 2018, 2019 bull cycle. That so those would be the last round of people that would be sort of sold off because they're not going to be in the green anymore, or the last chance of people to sell off, let's say. I don't think Elon was responsible for BTC's price crash at all because the news came out weeks after he did it. And I believe that all markets move according to monetary policy, which is why they're a Ponzi scheme. Like fundamentals have short-term movements, but at the end of the day, what dictates the market's direction in the long term is the monetary policy that exists for that period of time. So if we were to look at someone like Cathie Wood, who has had phenomenal career over the last few years with major growth funds that she's had in like biotech, innovation, etc., tech. But these funds that she created, ARC, they were created at a time when we were in a quantitative easing market. So everything was going up, especially the S&P, which are all growth stocks. So her whole career has been based on the monetary policy system being set at quantitative easing and never had the brakes put on. And if you were to take into account when the double top occurred on BTC, and that occurred when the Fed announced that they were going to begin with their tightening process, and that was in November. On the date, that's when the double top formed. So being the most speculative asset, that's when we start to see capital come out of that market. So all of these small, I would say the market is in a cycle, whether it be bearish or bullish, depending on the monetary policy at that point. How do I frame this? During the earlier periods of it, market news that is not related to that monetary policy in regards to CPI, GDP, those kind of raw fundamentals they're the only things that have an impact. Whereas as the cycle matures, that's when you start to see, like, maybe there's a news article about a company that comes out and it's positive. So you'll see some short-term movement on that. But until, let's say, it's settled in everyone's emotions, the only fundamentals in play is just a broad spectrum of the monetary policy that exists. Does that make sense?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, I'm just looking at it from the side of, you've got the SEC coming after all these cryptos now. You've got Bored Ape, Yacht Club next, Ethereum are going to be under the radar. But then just what about Bitcoin? I mean, if let's just say it does take off, we get 100k Bitcoin, it all goes through regulation. You can buy and sell it in every country legally, well, regulated. Then surely it must be the government that owns it, because how can they just accept the fact that there's this one person that is just running a...
But this is where it comes down to
company, do you know what I mean?
Is it's not a security. So the SEC has no jurisdiction. I think it's going under the commodities jurisdiction, at which point it's treated just like a metal. But
then who puts the papers in and stuff? Like, there must be some sort of paperwork involved with it. And
no, because it's something that's traded as a commodity. It's not you're not trading a share or an equity. The only thing that exists is the ownership of that asset. And the moment you transfer it from one wallet to another wallet, that's documented on the chain, it's stored on the chain, and it's within that transacted wallet. So there's no, so if you were to look at the regulation point of view on BTC, the only thing that you'd be doing would be analyzing on-chain records, KYCing as many wallet addresses as possible. So like, once again, like MetaMask just announced that they've got an on-ramp for going direct from bank to MetaMask. Don't do that, because straight away you've just KYC'd your wallet. You can go on board on one wallet and transfer to another, but keep these things separate. You have a front face and a back face. That's the way you need to operate.
I'm already screwed over anyway. I've linked all my exchanges to each other, sending assets across from crypto.com to
you link your assets
and all that stuff. So,
but so you send it from your ledger. See, look, I'm very security conscious, so I would transfer from an exchange to a wallet and then go from that wallet to a ledger.
Yeah, never die there.
Yeah. So there's an intermediary in place because all they see on chain is that transactions have been taking place, but unless there's ownership assigned to, there's no physical evidence that you own that wallet. Why do I say these things on recordings?
Yeah, I mean,
Because you're editing them, you're all right.
edit that on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's two scenarios, isn't it? Bitcoin's going to rally and it's going to become what it was designed to be, or the regulations are going to hit it. But in the opposite, like if Bitcoin does just take off, surely it must be controlled by some government, because how are they just allowing it? Like it just doesn't make sense that it's become from the dark web to this globally traded asset. It's amazing. But at the same time, it's a bit worrying that, like, how'd you get from A to B without the CIA or somebody like coming to get you? Do you know what I mean?
I wouldn't be surprised. Like if news like that came out, like I think it would be detrimental to the project completely. I don't think Bitcoin is the last of this creation. I think there will be alternatives out there, but it's just another option, I guess. But there was, what was this? Was about a few years ago, the FBI, or I think it was Interpol, created an encrypted messaging application. They issued this application and released it over 10 years ago, and it was used by all of these sort of criminal syndicates across the world. And then
Encroacher.
I think a few years ago, they did on a single day, they did a huge takedown globally, all at the same time, like 20 different operations.
That could be coming
Yeah,
with
was
Bitcoin.
that the encroacher.
What was it?
But yeah, that's what I see. Bitcoin is a similar thing. Encroach was the encrypted messengers. They're all it was just all sorts going on there. But yeah, that was basically set up by them, wasn't it? I see Bitcoin as a similar thing. Like, if it's not, this has kind of been the way you get the public to trust crypto and digital assets and move over to a cashless society, as everyone believes the decentralization of Bitcoin. But when you've got KYC and everything going on in the background and linking all these wallets together, it then becomes more of a tracked currency. Everything is then moving from the current financial system into a digital system. But obviously with the help of Bitcoin, because how do you get everyone on board with it? You've got to have trust in the system. Bitcoin could just be that layer of trust then for everyone. You've got the control. There's never going to be any more. There's never going to be, that becomes the kind of foundation, let's say, to this new financial system where it's essentially is just your digital gold, and it's got as much value as it because of the scarcity of it.
But
it's interesting. I think obviously yeah, go ahead.
No, carry on.
Yeah, I mean, we've only got two situations, really, haven't we? It's going to really go, or it's going to be held back. But I'm keeping my eye on the regulations because it just seems so. It's weird, man. I can't get my head out. It just came to this place.
I think it's too big to fail.
We all just kind of accept it is what it is.
Yeah, it's definitely too big to fail.
It's a kind of belief system, isn't it? It only exists, and the current value of Bitcoin is because that's what people believe it to be. If that belief system
Michael,
then broke down for whatever reason,
money. That is money. Like if the beliefs, like it is today, the belief system in the US dollar today is crumbling. So it's the whole idea of money is what it's worth to the whoever you're transacting with. And that's the same with bartering. We built an identity of and a representation of notes as a value, but it's not a value, it's an IOU. And that IOU is supposedly underpinned by whatever reserve is in the back. But if there's no reserve, then it's worth nothing. So the more people that realize that there's no underpinning value to what exists, there's no trust behind it, which is where there is value in something like BTC, because the value is in the locked reserve asset. So to the point that that's a fixed supply, anything, once all the coins are released, the volatility comes down because people are just storing it. The BTC's evolved for so long, and it's taken different forms. I think since 2013, I would say it's had different forms and different beliefs in it. But more than anything, BTC is a savings account because of the way it's structured. It has a fixed supply, so the more people that buy it on a consistent and hold it there, and this is why it is a reserve asset. So keep putting coins in and stacking Satoshis because it is a savings account, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to completely ignore it, but I'm just a little bit cautious. Just like I believe in crypto in the whole, but it's something a bit fishy about Bitcoin, I think.
But be careful with look with projects like HBAR and stuff. These are small cap altcoins. Like they've got big backing, but so does every venture investment that's in a big tech field. Look at the amount of innovations that are spun out of Google, Apple, Facebook, etc., that just die, and they'll invest upwards of like 3-digit millions into these projects. So don't be fooled by the big names that support it, because that's something that's just been leveraged within crypto marketing and to build the Ponzi sort of multi-level marketing aspect to them. So yes, there's companies that back it. Yes, the team's good, but just be wary that things do fail. Like if they don't get adopted or there's no use case, everything's experimental in this space. So in markets like this, bear markets, this is when you find strong projects. If they're performing in this market, that's a good project.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you look at Ripple, for example, it's been hated on by the whole crypto community for years, but regardless of the SEC and everything, it's still remained the top 10 crypto. It's got a lot of volume going through it, and it's remained. And these companies, they're not promoting on Discord. They haven't got all these like little crypto chats set up. They're purely operating as a functional blockchain with application. It's not something that it's not some sort of pump and dump scheme where people are buying in on a whim and then selling. You've got big institutions utilizing the actual application of the tokens or cryptos, whatever it may be. But that's why I feel a bit more. I mean, I look at crypto, they're just digital stocks, aren't they? The tech stocks. This is a new innovation. We're moving into like a tokenized, cashless system. And these are basically your Apple and Google of the future. Like these could be, when we do see things like NFTs being used for things like mortgage agreements and passports, those kinds of things, and you've got all this use case for them, they could become one of those global giants in the tech industry.
Hang on, XRP's just done the interesting. Okay, so we had a death cross here on a daily, so we got golden, golden. Yeah, we had a death cross here in January 2022, and that's where we went heavily to the downside. And it looks like now that we're forming a golden cross on the daily, that's going to be a strong retail signal, by the way, for a bullish change. We broke through the 50 and the 200. Those cross, and
we're going to get the settlement by January.
I think we're going to pump to a level now ahead.
Yeah, I mean, as the people are obviously, if you follow the case, it is looking very positive for Ripple. There has been a bit of, that's where a lot of that retracement's come from there. You've got some good fundamentals that caused it to pump.
If we
but at the same time, there was a big Ripple actually control it. This is one thing I don't like about them as well. Obviously, put it out there if anyone doesn't know it. But with the way they control the accounts, they've got them locked up in escrow accounts. they control the supply, and it lost I don't know, there was a bit of move to the downside when they obviously released more coins onto the blockchain, because obviously there's more supply, the value goes down. But I just don't know what their angle with it. I don't fully understand, obviously, how they use that to do what they do. But when you put more
Leverage.
tokens in and you control the supply of it, it's the price is in their control, really, isn't it?
Oh yeah, that's the idea of centralization. I think if we close a weekly, Sunday today, we don't actually have much to move. If we close a weekly above this 200 moving average on, I think we'll move upwards on Ripple, by the way. I might long it. But if we don't, we're coming back down to these levels at 0.3.
The XRP Army's got a new member. Finally got him, boys. Finally got him, lad.
Nah, so
And where the
see,
money
even
is.
this, though it's not guaranteed, obviously, they lose the SEC case, then it's going to go down. But long term, it's just going to take longer
Technicals
to
are
get where they
Oh,
are.
they're not losing.
Fines or whatever.
This is a this whole lawsuit, and I said it for since the
Publicity.
beginning now. It's not publicity. It's the legal discovery that the government has to go through to understand it before there's adoption. They get so much exposure to all of the ins and outs through a legal infrastructure that is to allow them to adopt it. There's no, you've exposed all of the ins and outs of it. This has nothing to do with whether it's a security or not. That whole discussion's just a farce. It's more about I would say, how other projects are addressed when it comes to whether they're securities or not. But the way this discovery has been done, this is about adoption. And I've said it before, it's happened with Google, it's happened with Facebook, it's happened with every large big tech player. And I'm pretty sure when Swift was put together, it was put together by elites. So there needs to be some sort of scrutiny on something like this before it is adopted.
Well, at some of the news as well, he met with the commodities person as well, whoever's in charge of the commodities regulator. So there was rumours that it could be listed under a commodity instead of a cryptocurrency, which would still be positive as well, as long as it's not a security. But I mean, it can't be at this point. You can trade, like, I think I mentioned it to MM a few weeks ago. On the XTMO account, XRP is one of the few cryptos you can actually trade with. You can't trade the security the same way you can trade XRP, and there is already exchanges and brokers out there that accept the fact that it's not a security. It's only the US that really has a problem with it. The rest of the world, even the Bank of England's announcements, when they write cryptocurrencies, they put like Bitcoin, Ethereum, and XRP. So it is really only the SEC as an individual institution or whatever that actually has a problem with it and is holding back the US market at the minute.
I think it's just the way that the SEC is run. You'd expect a commission like this to really scrutinize and take heavy action to stop major financial security crimes from occurring. But if you look at how many cases go to court versus settlement, and the settlement values are fuck all compared to, one, the damages they've caused, and two, the value that this individual, this company has. So they're just big money-making machines. It's not to provide the legal infrastructure to put these businesses under a magnifying glass at all. It's the same with what's the organization for anti-monopoly laws and stuff like that. You would think that they would address the concerns that evolve around big tech buying up small companies before they can do anything. They're taking out competition before they grow, before they get stilts. But they're more focused on why Amazon's buying Roomba, which is also fucked up. But
this is the whole point of the argument from Ripple's defense as well. They're meant to be protecting the investors, but they're actually doing the opposite in this situation. The idea of they're meant to close the case as quickly as possible. There's a lot of Americans that had the assets frozen with the announcement, and they're still being held back from the capital because of it. So the only people it's really damaging in this situation is the holders of XRP, which majority are probably retail investors as well.
Yeah, they're all retail investors. Anyone, I think, if you were to look back in history on the charts of XRP, you'll see it dumped at launch. As with
well, the same thing will happen again when this news comes out and the price just flips and goes bullish overnight. I think it's just going to dump all those day one XRP holders that have been waiting for the payday. They're going to be cashing out after this news, I think.
There's really two strategies.
A lot of people who've held it from the beginning have been looking for exits, haven't they?
I don't think anyone's been looking for an exit on it, to be honest. It comes to that point that you've held it for this long. You may as well keep on. It hasn't done the movements that most of the crypto's done, but they've been building. I think if they had locks released off wallets or gained access, there'll be no sell-off at all.
At the moment, it's got a bigger market cap than BUSD.
The market cap's bullshit, though.
With all the scrutiny from the SEC.
Because market cap's reliant on the way the coins and the tokenomics are built. So market caps are relevant. It's a formula. So you could make a coin tomorrow and have a higher market cap than BTC just by manipulating the tokenomics. Hex did. Richard Hart's coin. That's the whole reason why he uses it as a marketing point, is because he's manipulated the tokenomics to say it has number one. I actually believe in his coin. I'm not. He has a lot of good principles within Hex that make a lot of sense. He's built off the system that everything is a Ponzi scheme, and he's put in the risk management processes to protect the Ponzi scheme from collapse. So it's just like an insurance company. That's the way I look at Hex. And that's not just to make myself feel better because I've got some Hex locked up for the next, not even for the next year, for the next 12 years.
Oh,
okay,
that sounds like a Ponzi scheme.
They're all Ponzi schemes.
Similar thing what this DeFi have done. DeFi have done the same thing, and they come out with this new DeFi kingdoms, and then their tokenomics locked it up for even longer. Yeah. And then obviously we went through this crash, and it's just, oh yeah, we're going to reward you in a token that's locked up for years, and it's crazy, man. This whole thing, even I bought that Safe Moon and fucking all these, I think one of the polls on there, and fucking Soldier Boy and all this, who all got paid to promote the crypto, and then they just fucking dumped it. But I think with this again, the regulation coming out, these cryptos are going to disappear, and you're not going to be able to promote it. And all these little Telegram groups, isn't it? They start all on Telegram. They get a bit of a community behind them, and then the market and just fucking sends the coin to the moon temporarily, and then all the early investors just dump it.
Coming up, we're releasing the mesh coin. Gonna do an ICO.
That's where it starts, man.
Anything that locks you up, like I've seen so many projects that have these lockup, like in app or in DApp or in game lockups with the coins, and it's not to add value to yourself, it's to add value to them. It's either one, to stop their coin and their whole tokenomics from breaking, so they haven't thought about how the economy of the coin moves within their application, or two, it's because there's coins that are not locked up that they have the ability to mint, and they will just basically bump the price and the value up on a fixed supply and then mint as needed and basically tank it, which was done. So there's all these little things, but I think these projects, they will go.
what happens if, like, obviously Apple's already got the market share now in digital, like, fucking digital payments in a way. Everyone's tapping their iPhone for these contactless payments. What when Apple just create their own currency and they've already got the market share to do it?
Didn't I post about the wallet in the group, Apple Wallet?
Yeah, well, that's something.
Cash rewards.
Tim Cook, he's pro blockchain for a while, and he does whole crypto. He's mentioned Bitcoin and some of the others. And yeah, I mean, that's the start of it, really. Like Amazon are going to do it. There was
Everyone
an
will
advert
have
in
their
the
own.
UK from Mazda where they're basically paying the customers, like the rewards cards you get at like Tesco and Asda and whatever. But rather than getting points, they're giving you pounds. But they called them Asda pounds, and I was like, this just sounds like a blockchain. That you're going to be rewarded in these digital Asda pounds that you can only spend at Asda.
Well, they give you discount and
like a point system.
And they're inflationary as well. This is something that I've worked on for a supermarket actually recently on a project. And I mentioned it about on the group as well, the ability to effectively mint inflationary coins against a purchase that have zero value when it comes to you, but if you accumulate enough, create a discount for the individual. So it's this false economy narrative. But yeah, here's the Apple card. You can apply now. 3% unlimited daily cashback. Oh, it's like a credit, a crypto card.
Yeah, see, Apple are going to take over, man. Cars are next as well after this.
No fees, no.
That's why we see more adoption when these big companies start stepping in. Isn't it?
But this is it. Like,
everything's
a gateway
to do it, really, because they've just literally took over, haven't they? They've got the digital payments anyway. The Apple Wallet is the most used wallet right now.
If you
why wouldn't you make a card?
Why wouldn't you absorb what Visa and MasterCard do? Visa and MasterCard sit in the middle of a transaction and take 2%. Like, and for such a small component of what the
middleman.
Yeah, and it's such a small component of what this like device allows you to do. So why wouldn't you vertically integrate as much as possible into it? That's just 2% more revenue that for you. Well, the way you flip the model even better, but the way they're doing it is because, let's say, for example, all of the Apple users use the Apple Wallet. Apple is the custodian in this point. Therefore, Apple is the bank. And as the bank, Apple has the ability to then lend 10x against the value of the equity that they're holding as a custodian with all of your funds, or every Apple iPhone user's funds. So they have, it just increases their market cap ability tenfold because they're now able to 10x everything. They could then act as their own personal bank. They would have a bank for Apple.
Crazy, man.
They could give themselves favorable debt. They could do so much. Fund their growth rate through there, so they could actually, they could use your funds and lend to themselves to fund their innovation and growth instead of going to a commercial bank. So at much better rates, offering you better rates as well because there's no middleman. So it's almost like a corporate bond.
Yeah, I mean, this is it now. Like, digital assets are here to stay. There's no denying that. It's just a case of what survives with regulation at this point. What companies have done it right? Which ones have made the movements to be in compliance with the best utility are then going to just take off, because it's not even a case of if anymore. It is literally just when. And I think that points regulation, to be fair.
All right, guys, I've got to go. I need to eat. Blood sugar's going down. What's this? You guys look good.
Happy days. Thanks a lot, guys. Nice one.
Oh, wait, there's a question coming. Have you guys looked into the World Economic Forum partnerships and how they're positioning themselves amongst the digital? Oh, that's an interesting one. All right, let's look into this before we go.
And this is Liz Truss is actually on the WEF, isn't she? Is that?
All of our younger leadership is. The like Jacinda and all of those, the Prime Minister of Iceland, they're all part of it. There was, when you go into these
And Ripple are part of WEF as well.
model UN, they're sort of nurtured under this program. And they're massive socialites. Who are the partners then? I think this is not the right page.
Chris Larson's the in with Ripple.
Oh, here we go. Oh, there's big. There's a lot of partners. Let's look at the foundation. So you got, look, strategic foundation partnerships. You got Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Salesforce. Interesting. Strategic. What are we looking at? Amazon.
Are you screen sharing?
These are quite possibly the biggest companies in their respective industries. Adeko's huge. Adani's I think he's the richest man in India now, after or before Ambani. Alibaba, Amazon, ArcelorMittal, the biggest French steel manufacturer. AIG, the biggest insurance company. AstraZeneca, Agility, biggest logistics company. Not biggest, but they're known for some shady shit anyway.
Yeah, see that list of crypto there? There are like 4 of mine are on there. HBAR, XRP, Stellar.
This is actually a list of all of the most evil entities in the world.
Go down to R and look what's under the R category.
Is there any partners?
Some good companies under R.
Yeah, these guys will land themselves not ISO compliant. HBAR, XRP, Algo, Cardano, Chainlink, Stellar, Eve, Grid, Maker, Circle, Ocean Protocol.
All right, let's
The Illuminati, pretty much.
No, so these, I think a lot of these have paid to get in. So HBAR valid due to their corporate partnerships, XRP valid, Algo very valid, Cardano fuck off, Chainlink,
yeah,
okay, valid, Stellar, okay.
Get off the link.
Aave is quite possibly the biggest lending platform on the Ethereum network. Now it's integrated with Algorand and Arbitrum. I think it's brought down the fees for lending significantly. It's huge. Maker is MakerDAO, and they put their own stable currency as well. Huge project, very bankable. Circle, big one. The only project on this list that's shit is Cardano.
Yeah, I've got a couple, but I'm not bullish on it. Like,
what's Ocean Protocol? I think someone shared this a while ago in the group, didn't they?
They did, yeah. I'm not well read on that one.
See, the ISO thing, I think I mentioned this before. Like, those that come together to create the standard, they're actually in the committee that does it. So it's actually a bit of a farce in some ways, because I've approached like TUV to create standards for things, and if they don't have a standard that exists, they'll create a standard. You've basically got to give them the specification to which that standard is created. So what you'll find is that the partners on this list here, they've signed up as part of this sort of committee to write the standard for it, or there's a few of them on this list that have done so, whether that be, I would say XRP, HBAR, because of the corporation behind them. I would say Circle, it was another leader, and Aave. But I would say then everyone else will then follow on. So that's when it becomes a bit of a pyramid scheme or a Ponzi scheme, because they've now created the standard. The standard means anything. It does show you can comply, but whoever wrote that initially, you've got to ensure that they have it right from the get-go. So how has a standard come out before regulations come out?
Well, Stellar are already using theirs through the MoneyGram, aren't they? So MoneyGram are partnered with the post office in the UK. every post office has got a MoneyGram, and obviously they're using the Stellar network to lower the fees and increase the settlement rates between cross-border payments. But Stellar is essentially just Ripple with a twist on it. So it's a inflationary and rather than deflationary. But obviously Stellar, the co-founder of XRP, he's basically the brains behind it. But that's already, I think with that MoneyGram thing, that was huge because that's already imprinted into the UK already. That's it. MoneyGram and the post office are huge, aren't they? So,
well, it gives the post office something to do.
yeah, once we stop sending letters.
They're definitely like, this is a
I use the post office as a bank now. You can deposit money into the post office. They operate just like a bank, and obviously they've got their own thing. But since I found out that you can deposit money in the post office, I've never been back to them.
I don't think that sounds like a good idea at all. Go buy some gold. Stop depositing in the bank. Just sit on it.
Yeah,
I'm off, boys. Thanks very much, guys.
yeah.
Enjoy the
Right,
rest of
thanks,
the
guys.
week.
Thanks, Sam. Goodbye. See you later, boys.
boys.
All the best.
Uh,